welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have alien contactee, Hollywood producer, Robert Douglas Miles. I cannot wait to have this guest. We've been talking through the week. This is going to be an incredible story for you guys. So hang in there. We will have open lines later in the show. This is a 3-hour show tonight because, man, Robert's got a great story to tell. I want to make sure he gets enough time to do it. But, of course, we will do the World Wide Web of Weird as well. Guys, man, this is a rough start for me tonight. If people saw, I posted on Facebook. I investigated with the Ghost Brothers last night from Destination America. It was a late night, so hang in there with me. But we got such a good guest tonight. It will definitely keep all of you up. All right, guys, let's get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. We are streaming out as a webcast for people listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network on our Facebook page, Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I understand the L&M chat is down right now, and they are going to be moving to subscriber-only chat. So look into that. As I find out more information, I will share. So we do have the Facebook live chat, though. That is open. You can definitely join us there and watch and chat, or just continue to listen. We do play music out. We'll talk about that later that you can't hear on Facebook. Tonight, let me bring on our panel. As I said, it's a webcast, so you can see our guest tonight. How you doing tonight, Robert? Oh, you're muted, Robert. Unmute. You'll be a pro at that button.
Okay, I'm doing terrific. Thanks for having me on. You guys are amazing.
Love the topic tonight. I can't wait to talk about it. There's so many topics we could go down, rabbit holes as we call them. But we want to get your story out there and let you talk about that and talk about your movies too. And we're gonna have some trailers to play tonight too. Watch. You can find a lot of this stuff. We'll have the link. I have a lot of links in the video description tonight. You can go check out Robert's webpage. You can check out the video links I have in there. There's a lot. This guy's put out a lot. Of course, joining me every Sunday night is my beautiful co-host, is Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing great and excited to hear some of these stories tonight, too.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, my video engineer, Jeffrey Chan, will be running the World Wide Web of Weird. And speaking of that, let's roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to start off the little article I found interesting. Aliens may be hiding from us behind the cosmic gorilla effect. There's a lot of alien stuff in tonight's World Wide Web of Weird. Been influenced lately by Robert, our guest tonight. Also, Terry Lovelace. I just finished his book, Incident at Devil's Den. So I had a lot of alien stuff on my mind, so I guess it influenced the World Wide Web of Weird. For those, again, listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, we are a webcast. Go to Facebook, Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where you can watch the show, see our guest, join the chat room. If you're listening, I try to narrate as best I can, but we got some incredible stuff tonight. You might want to come look. All right, aliens may be hiding from us behind the cosmic gorilla effect. This comes from thinkaboutit.aliens.com. Where are the aliens? Enrico Fermi, I've totally butchered that, called the fact that there are so many stars yet no aliens visiting us a paradox. Perhaps the second half of the paradox is wrong. Aliens exist and are living amongst us, but we're so distracted by watching what we know that we completely ignore them. That's a premise behind the cosmic gorilla effect, and a new study suggests that a simple video experiment with athletes and an ape may prove that we're not alone. just oblivious. And boy, there's a lot of ways people are oblivious to a lot of things, not just aliens. The cosmic gorilla effect, or the problem of undetected non-terrestrial intelligence signals, is the title of a new study published in the Journal of Attica Astronautica. The gorilla effect refers to the famous experiment conducted by Christopher Chiberius and Daniel Simmons, cognitive psychologists and authors of The Invisible Gorilla, How Our Intuitions Deceive Us. A video shows 6 people, 3 in black shirts and 3 in white, passing basketballs to only those wearing the same colored shirts. The participants instructed to count how many times the people in the white shirts passed the ball. At the end, they're asked for their total, given the correct answer, and then asked another very embarrassing question. But did you see the gorilla? Yes, a gorilla walked between the players, and most people are so focused on counting they missed it completely. The experiment is often used to describe situations like the unreliability of witnesses at a crime scene, who are often focused on something else. In their new study, neuropsychologists Gabriel de la Torre and Manuel Garcia from the University of Cadiz, Spain, I totally butchered that, use a comic version of the gorilla effect to explain why many of us do not see extraterrestrials walking through the scenery of our lives. You can find this article, like I said, at thinkaboutit.aliens.com. You know what it reminded me of is the Will Smith movie, Men in Black, which I'm not a big fan of that movie. It's funny, but to me it totally skirts the real Men in Black. But there's a scene where he's shooting all the aliens and all this stuff, and all these guys are shooting all the aliens, and then Will Smith points out, he shot one thing. He shot the little girl. Everybody didn't notice the little girl holding the nuclear physics book. Saying, we get distracted by things, and we don't see the thing right in front of us. And I love this theory. I mean, think about all of us on our cell phones. Yeah, why didn't you take a picture with your cell phone, or the other stuff? Most time people don't see the UFO because they're on their cell phone. They're looking down, not up. All right, let's move on to the World Wide Web of Weird. We have mirror.co.uk, this article here. My son would love this story. He's really big into Jurassic Park, and so was I as a kid. Russians plan 4.5 million Jurassic Park-style cloning facility to bring extinct species like the woolly mammoth back to life. Vladimir Putin will next month unveil exact plans for the center, intended to be a world-class paleogenetic scientific hub in the world's coldest city of Uskis. I butchered that, I'm sure. Extinct woolly mammoth, cave lions, and other long-dead species may be brought back to life with new 4.5 million cloning facility, and the Russian scientists claim. The new Jurassic Park-style center will be a world-class paleogenetic scientific hub in the world. Why do they repeat this stuff in articles? I'm trying to read the article, and they repeat the same paragraph again. Why? Vladimir Putin's exact plans will be unveiled in September at the investment forum, but experts say the center will aim to study extinct animals from living cells and to restore such creatures as the woolly mammoth, the woolly rhinoceros, cave lions, and breeds of long-gone horses. The cloning laboratory, some sunk deep in the permafrost soil, will extend research by Russian scientists who are already working closely with the South Korean specialists. They found DNA from ancient animals preserved in remains encased in frozen soil and permafrost for 10,000s of years. Dr. Liana, I'm not going to try to butcher her name, who drafted the plans for the center, said there's no such unique material anywhere else in the world. There's the mad scientist part of me that loves this. But there's the person that knows how science goes wrong, and I think we've had 4 Jurassic Park movies that tell us that. I don't know. It's interesting, but should we do it? I think that was the main premise of all the Jurassic Park movies and the books. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. But I can't admit that the mad scientist in me kind of gets excited about it. I know it's awful. All right, let's move on. Number 3 in the World Wide Web of Weird. Another story from Russia. This comes from Slavorum.com. Age of Cyborg, Russians see the new combat suit for Russian military. We're working on a concept for the combat suit of the future. The future is here. This new high-tech cyborg-looking combat suit has been revealed on Thursday at the opening of the largest Russian high-tech prototype center in Moscow, reports the RT. The stunning super soldier combat suit, as I say, looks like what it was in Doom 4, the video game, has made everybody drop their jaws. It's basically how Russian soldiers will look on future battlefields: futuristic, dangerous, cool, and full of new tech gadgets. The suit also provides the soldiers an exoskeleton, increase their strength, performance, and stamina during long missions. They secretly developed it on the Central Research Institution of Precision Machine Building. It's basically a place where Russians gather a think tank for future weapons designing and military tech advancements. It's obvious in the future there will be more and more robots and human-machine cyborgs replacing average human soldiers of the day. Exoskeletons, drones, robotized vehicles is a similar in the future we're going into. What I find scary about that is we just bombed the crap out of Syria, which I don't agree with at all. And we could be heading to World War III, and our soldiers could be running into this. Now, we have something of our own. You know it. We have something of our own. But it's scary, the future of warfare, what's going to happen. And these guys, imagine if Russia invaded America and these guys came storming into your, like some Red Dawn scenario, but it'd be way worse. Now they're cyborgs. I know. New movie concept there, Robert. Okay, let's move on. All right, this is from MSN.com. Canadian press, Sasquatch thrown out by a British Columbia court. Vancouver, British Columbia court has thrown out a lawsuit that claimed that the provincial government has committed a declaration of duty by failing to protect the Sasquatch as threatened by as an endangered species. Todd Standing, who describes himself as a wildlife expert and filmmaker who has spent years studying the Sasquatch, launched a suit in January. He claimed officials from British Columbia Fish and Wildlife Branch don't acknowledge the existence of Sasquatch and infringed on his rights as they relate to his concerns regarding the primate, also known as Bigfoot. In the response, the Providence called the lawsuit frivolous, the abuse of process, lacking any air of reality, and applied to have the case dismissed, saying Standing's statement of fact are ultimately incapable of proof. In his judgment posted online Tuesday, British Columbia Court Justice Kenneth Ball finds no issue with the BC's lack of Sasquatch recognition, ruling that no duty was owed to Standing to support a view of the existence of any creature. Ball finds none of Standing's legal rights have been breached by the province and approves the application to reject the lawsuit, ruling the action has no reasonable process for success. You think this guy, I love him for his effort, but he should have known this was going to be the outcome. Because as much as I believe in the possibility of Bigfoot, and I do think for all the witnesses and everything, I definitely believe it exists. I've not seen one myself, but I definitely believe it's very much real. I believe the witnesses and their stories. It's just not accepted by the scientific community. And that's all you're going to hear. That's all it takes in the court to say, nope, throw it out. So it's sad. What we do need is the proof so we can protect this creature. But so far, nobody's killed one and come out about it. And showed in the body. So far, Bigfoot's been pretty good at the hide-and-seek game, and he's not getting killed by hunters or anybody. But if somebody does find one, then there could be a whole hunt for him, if it is revealed. So there does need to be a protection if they ever are proven to exist. All right, this is a story, another cryptid kind of story, maybe. I don't know. I have an article for Fox News. There's a lot of different articles. And I've been watching, I wish I had the reporter's name. There's been a reporter from the Monroe County who's been reporting on this really good. A lot of good videos. I've shared them on my timeline. I've shared them on the Midwest Paranormal page. There's like a 50-minute long interview with the sheriff of Monroe County. And man, it's really interesting. I suggest you go watch it, but I'm not going to play it. It's too long. All right. 3 horses and 2 dogs that were found dead in Monroe County on Sunday morning were possibly killed by a large cat, the sheriff department said. Officials with the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife were called to a home in Tompkinsville on reports of dead animals. When they arrived, officials found 3 deceased horses as well as the bodies of a pit bull and a husky. It is believed that this occurred in the wee hours of the morning, and all signs show that it possibly could have been done by a large animal. The statement continued, adding that members of the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife diagnostic teams were called to examine the animal carcass. I'm not going to read the rest of the article because I watched the guy's video. Interview with the sheriff. The Fish and Wildlife came, and according to the sheriff, they didn't do a necropsy, whatever, an animal autopsy. They examined the bodies, and then they interrogated the owner of the property, trying to get him to confess. And they did this trying to get away from the sheriff's ear view, but trying to get him to confess to just doing it on his own. There are animal tracks, but the problem is, and why the Fish and Wildlife are kind of freaking out, Jeff's warning to the audience I should have put up before Jeff put the pictures up. These are graphic. I apologize, but I wanted to show these. You can see there's a circle. You bring that other photo up there, Jeff. There's a dead horse for people listening, and there's we circled or somebody did this photo, circled the paw print. It does look like a cat print, but the problem is the sheriff said this paw print is, and this is a big sheriff. He says this is bigger than his fist. It'd be a big cat, and he thinks this is why Fish and Wildlife do not want to identify the animal. They say they have come out and said that not a cat. They don't know what it is, and I think they're pointing to humans doing it. But there seemed to be an animal presence there. The other picture I got up, you can almost see a bite mark. I circled that. I'm not a professional. I can't ID bite marks or anything or tracks, but I just found this interesting. This photo, if you see it, you can look at it yourself. If you zoom in, it does look like a huge bite mark, and the sheriff said it was a 4-inch bite mark on one of the horses you're able to see. There was also accusation there was a bullet wound. The sheriff said he saw no evidence of that. Now there's another. I've just read a report before the start of this. There was another reported case of a calf being mutilated like this in nearby to this property just yesterday, I believe. So something's going on. I'm keeping an eye on this case. We'll give you more information as we learn it. I've heard a lot of people say dog man, but the track does appear to be cat. Like, at least the sheriff's opinion was that it was a cat print, big cat. So it's very interesting the way that it killed the animals and everything. But let's move on. All right, number 6. This is from the Charlottesville Observer. This is a UFO. The last 2 are UFOs. This one is a square-shaped UFO. Mystery square aircraft hovering in the night sky scared me to death, North Carolina man says. Another alleged UFO sighting near Charlottesville has appeared on Facebook, and in this case it was spotted by a husband and father who says he doesn't necessarily believe in UFOs. Javon Hill, 35, of King Mountain, North Carolina, says he took several photos of the object during a storm at night, August 18th, as he drove on US 74 West to Charlottesville. The image features something square hovering above the tree line with its edges fringed in the lights. Hill told the Charlottesville Observer that the craft frightened him to the point that he didn't sleep that night. I was on my way home with my wife on the speakerphone, and it looked like there was a tornado coming, so I was trying to take pictures of the clouds for my wife, says Hill. But then I saw something that wasn't normal, and I was like, oh my God, what is that? I started trying to take as many pictures of it as possible. Of course, they only have the one. Hill says he pulled over at... Oh, no, there was other pictures I missed. Sorry. Hill says he pulled over at the next exit to try to get a video, but the aircraft had vanished. Heavy rain followed instantly, he said. North Carolina is in the top 10 among 50 states when it comes to alleged UFO sightings. I thought it was interesting, the shape and what it looks like.
Craft?
I don't know. I've never seen a square UFO like this, but maybe it's rectangular, because the one UFO I saw was rectangular. It had no lights, but it almost looks like there's windows, like you could almost see. Oh, wish you could have got a video of it. That would have been really cool, but when you're driving, it's not easy. All right, and the last one, this is one, I don't know why this one isn't picking up as much. I know, I've seen these videos by, I don't remember the name of the Facebook group, whatever, shares all these alien videos, and they share tons of stuff that's old, really old. But they did share this. I found it. Now, I got this from alienstar.org. This article titled, let me see, just in crazy UFO sighting in Texas, August 31st, 2018. But there's like multiple videos people have shot. It's just not one person witness. There's multiple witnesses to this. Jeff's playing them out on the screen here. It's a triangular-shaped UFO. One of our followers just notified us, this is from the website, about the video recorded by a Facebook user with the name of Megan Knoll, and we decided that it's too interesting enough not to post it. The witness, scared enough, started screaming, and we're not playing the audio because there was a lot of swearing in all these videos, so even one in Spanish. So I don't want to play it because we're on the radio. Witness got scared enough, started screaming at other people, look in the sky, to your right, look, oh, OMG, UFO, call 911. Yeah, he was like screaming at his truck, pointing at this thing. You even see the thing rotate, this triangular UFO. And go find these videos. It's hard to find. It took me a while to find a lot of these videos. Some people comments, cool, are you just barely finding out about this? There are UFOs all around Houston. I won't go through all the comments, but I can't find a lot of articles on this, and I gotta believe you got these 3 videos here that are amazingly good. I don't think this is a hoax of any kind. The one video Jeff's showing to the right of the screen, you can see this thing rotate out. It's really amazing. There's probably more videos of this. It was August 31st this happened. In Texas, in Springland, Texas, and then another neighboring town. I don't have the name here. I lost it. But I believe there's probably more videos out there. I've been trying to find them, see if anybody's posting. If you find another video from this UFO sighting, please share it to me. I never give out my email enough. Just so you know, if you want to email me, it's oojbland00@yahoo.com. Send me an email, guest suggestions, all that good stuff. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. We've got a great guest tonight, Robert Douglas Miles. We're going to talk about his alien contactee experience. It shaped his life, and he was given a vision of the future. So we will talk about that tonight. For people listening, we do play music out to Late Night in the Midlands radio network that you cannot hear on Facebook. So don't freak out. We will be back. We're playing music there that you can't hear. When we come back, we'll have our guest, Robert Douglas Miles. All right, guys, be back in just a few minutes. Tonight's guest, Robert D. Miles, an industrial professional with a 50-year track record of successfully doing business with a number of America's largest prestigious entertainment and business corporations. He's president, content producer, editor, writer for Timestream Pictures, which is in production and releases a number of past and current film projects, as well as an ongoing YouTube channel. The Safe Space Vision is a short explanation of Robert's mission to help better the conditions of planet Earth. Currently, Robert is in his company, Timestream Pictures, is in pre-production of a TV series entitled Deadly Dogman, which is scheduled for media release early May. His feature film is Hitler's Escape to Argentina, has just been released both on video download and DVD. You can see the entire 1 hour, 30-minute film trailer on Vimeo. Robert is the executive producer of 17 movies, producer, writer of award-winning UFO and ET film feature film Fast Walkers, which won the prestigious People's Choice EBE Award and also Best Music EBE Award from the International UFO Congress. See www.fastwalkers.com for more information. Fast Walkers has a number of sold-out theater premieres in New York, Phoenix, Washington, D.C., Hawaii, Roswell, New Mexico, and Toronto, Canada. Fast Walkers was given to every member of the U.S. Congress, the presidential staff, NASA, and every member of the Canadian Parliament. Robert has been a guest on numerous radio and television shows, including Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, The Kevin Smith Show, The Jeff Rentz Show, Consciousness Evolution Media Network, PBS, The Jerry Pippin Show, Michael Vera, of course, Late Night in the Midlands Show as well. An avid adventure captain, Robert D. Miles has designed and built 4 large sailing vessels, owned numerous boats of various sizes and descriptions, including the Fairweather 1, which at the time was launched was the largest motor sailing catamaran in the world. Robert and his partners and crew built the ship with Robert's design in Phoenix, Arizona. Upon completion, the vessel was transported from a flatbed truck to Long Beach, California. A longtime sailor, Robert has owned and operated over 24 boats and ships, made films throughout the United States as well as Hawaii, Baja, Mexico, Honduras. He's undertaken film projects in Tahiti, Nicaragua, as well as numerous other countries throughout the world. He's well-traveled, and he's an alien contactee. We're going to talk about his experience tonight. And like I said, towards the last hour of the show, we will take phone calls for you guys to ask your questions or share your own ET experience. We always love hearing your own personal stories on the show. But let's get to our guest.
Hello, Jason.
Hello, Robert. Hey, look, I don't know if you can see. We talked about it, and I didn't think I could do it. I actually got the green screen thing working for you.
Oh, that's sweet.
So I got it working last minute. I figured out while you were away.
Oh, well, I just want to congratulate you and your team for reaching out in the world. I mean, it's people like you and your team that are changing reality out there, and that is so important. And as we get further into the show, we'll talk a lot more about reality.
Yeah, that's what reason I started doing this show is because I meet so many people, they live in this dogma of reality and they don't see the wonder around them, just the crazy mysteries. They don't even ask the questions about it. And I know lots of people like me do, and that's why I want to do a show for people to come together. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm going to give you the floor. I want you to introduce, I gave your bio, but tell a little bit more people about yourself and where you want to start with your story.
Well, I think probably the best thing to start the program out with is that a few years ago, almost 50, wow. That's a few to me.
Yeah.
I had a life-changing experience in that I was invited aboard a spacecraft and made an incredible, as Robert Dean says, the nickel tur of the local solar system. And so for those people that are interested in that part, which is what I call my encounter, we'll talk about that in depth. But it takes quite a bit of time to really go through that. So why don't we start out by talking about the fact that there is so much evidence, and of course you're presenting it at the start of your program, for so many things that have been covered up.
Oh, yeah.
And those of us that have been researching this, and occasionally even the mainstream, get a glimpse of what's behind that veil. And I had the privilege recently of doing a DVD with the world's top historian on covert aircraft and vehicles, Michael Schratt. And Michael, um, he's just an amazing guy because he's dedicated his life to disclosing the things that he's discovered that are real. And there's a short trailer on the Timestream website that people can click on, and it's Michael talking about a fellow by the name of Ben Rich, who was the head of Lockheed Skunk Work for 30 years. And Ben Rich actually said that anything that you can imagine on Star Wars or
Right.
Battlestar Galactica, we've done it. And we're 50 years ahead of what the public knows about. So I really invite people to go up and watch that free trailer and take a look at Michael's little DVD there. And what we're going to discover as we get further into the program, all the different films I've done, they come out in different vehicles. One is our own vehicle, which is called Fastwalker's Open Files. And there's 7 of those. But there's also the Hollywood distribution end, which plays on Amazon Prime, Netflix, and all the major platforms. But the real benefit for Prime members are that almost all those UFO chronicles are free. And
I was gonna say, Robert, when we first talked, you said, "Oh yeah, my stuff's up on Amazon Prime," and you started sharing it on IMDb with me, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I've watched these. I didn't even know my guest did these. I watched a lot of them."
yeah, and why don't you go ahead and play that UFO Chronicles trailer? It's short and it's kind of good there. I think your tech guy has got the link to that.
Yeah, he's got it up here. You're gonna go ahead and play that, Jeff. Let me get the stop. Hold on one sec.
We are being engaged as a planet and as a species by other beings.
Essentially everything that you would want to know has been covered up.
We're dealing with a big, big story.
It's clear we're dealing with a cosmic Watergate.
We are being engaged as a planet and as a species by other beings.
Rumor is that they eventually moved most of the saucers that they had at the S4 facility to someplace called Area 6413 in Utah.
But all that data is born classified.
Hopefully, you played the right one.
Yeah, that was the right one.
All right,
Thank
awesome.
you, Jeffrey, for that. Yeah, so for people that are Prime members, I invite you to go up there and watch them. There's a lot of different titles, and on my IMDb page, which is a box at the top of my website, you can click on that. Not all my titles and films are up there, but there's quite a few. And I don't just make UFO movies. I also make other different types of products, like you mentioned Hitler's escape to Argentina. And that's just mind-boggling because, the information on Hitler has been out there for, Harry Cooper, who runs Shark Hunters, published a book about 7 years ago. And it carried all the evidence. And then when the History Channel did that series, Hunting Hitler, they really kicked that film up in terms of people that looked at it.
Oh yeah.
So that's up there too, and that's they can go up there and search the titles, and anything that's a UFO Chronicles is something that I produced and directed generally. There is another title called Alien Agenda, and in your introduction you mentioned Fast Walkers.
Right.
And Fast Walkers was the most successful UFO film of its era, and it's a little dated, but I think you just watched it under Alien Agenda up there on Prime, and there's a lot of terrific information on it. So I really invite people to take a look at that one too. It's a lot of fun to make these, but more importantly, I think we begin to understand that, hey, Alfie, there's a whole bunch more going on than what we're generally aware of. And I've had the pleasure to work with, when we did Fast Walkers, we interviewed about 50 UFO researchers and experiencers and ended up, I think, with 25 that we were able to crowd into 80 or 90 minutes there. So as a result of that, most of them only got a minute or two. And so then we went ahead and came out with what we call Fast Walkers Open Files, which are hour and a half long, one or two of these experts getting just to sit right in your front room with you. You know, it's not fancy, it's just great information, and many of them have, you know, detailed things like Michael Schratt. He's got models and pictures and drawings
Right.
of hundreds of craft that he's identified. So, you know, there's a lot to see up there, and I'd be happy to talk about any of that you guys are interested in. But
When it comes to
maybe you have
UFO
a
technology,
question.
I am. When it comes to UFO technology, I am. For instance, I know, like, if you go to Robert's website and you see the video file he's talking about of Michael Schrapp, there's a little preview video I think you have up there, and then you have pictures and stuff. He shows a picture of different alien craft, and there's one that just like what we showed tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, what people call the TR-3B, you know,
Yeah.
that triangle craft. And I always been interested with UFO technology. I listened adeptly to all the Bob Lazar interviews about Area 51 and S4, which was mentioned in your video, and that, what is your understanding? You know, doing all these documentaries, especially when you get into the UFO tech. Like you said, the one Lockheed Skunk Martin or whatever.
Skunk Works. Yeah.
Skunk Works.
Lockheed
Martin.
Yeah.
I mixed up my words. Yeah. He talked about us being 50 years. Whatever we have now, it's 50 years ahead of. It's more than the 50 years. I would think the stuff we're seeing, we're talking 1,000 years. You know, some of this stuff seems incredible. We recently, of course, everybody's talked about the Space Force from Trump.
Sure.
Sure. Do you believe there's a legitimate U.S. government Space Force already out there patrolling the solar system?
Oh, absolutely. And it's been out there for a long, long time. There's a new group that's really been doing a good job of hitting the mainstream called To the Stars Academy.
Yes.
And they released a couple of UFO gun camera videos of a couple of incidents that previously were classified. So I really have to take my hats off to those guys. One of the people there, Hal Puthoff, who's their top physicist.
Oh, they got big names for sure.
Yeah, he's used to be a close friend of mine, and I worked a lot
really?
with him.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he actually was a member of the Safe Space team for a while.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Robert, to interrupt,
Sure.
since you
No
mentioned
problem.
that, and I didn't know that before the interview. But I commented on that quite a bit on a show on the World Wide Web of Weird, more than once. And what I noticed about Puthoff is during their press conference, he didn't elaborate. He didn't talk a lot, it seemed like, and what I saw. In your opinion, was he being quiet for a purpose? Or just,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I wondered.
And one of the reasons is that Hal has openly admitted that he worked with the CIA.
Right.
And there's an old saying: once you're a member of that team, you're a member of that team.
It's always classified,
Yeah, and he also was with Russell Tagg, the head of the remote viewing project. And I knew Ingo Swann. He
Oh,
was one of the
wow.
top people, and I stayed at his apartment in New York City. Amazing guy. If
Oh,
only a
man.
fraction of his stuff could have been released. I mean, some
Oh,
of his
man.
art, Superminds, if anyone
Yeah.
hasn't seen it, go to superminds.com, and he's got hundreds of drawings. My favorite was an aft ship's view of the constellation Sagittarius. Fabulous, fabulous painting. His paintings are hung in all the great museums of the world, or reproductions of them.
One of my favorite stories ringing to a swan is the story of the military asking him to remote view the moon,
Yeah,
and him getting to see some stuff, and then, you know,
yeah,
that's such an incredible story, because I've always been fascinated with aliens on the moon. I don't know why I have, of all the
yeah.
topics of the paranormal and UFOs. That some reason I've always been focused on the moon and what aliens are doing on the moon, and that story just always intrigued me. Did he ever give you any insight to that? I have to ask.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. See, what people don't realize, and I'll digress for just a minute,
Yeah.
is that the Germans, they started their UFO program clear back in 1918. And they had a couple of good psychics, and it evolved into what they called the Thu group, and
The
Maria
Thal Society,
Oesterreich,
right?
and yeah, exactly. And by 1968, they had landed spacecraft on the moon and Mars. They had the Andromeda ship, which was, I don't know, a couple of 100 feet long, with two honeyboo or four honeyboo fours in that vessel. And this whole story that we're told by the mainstream press and NASA and anybody connected with this secret space force is that it's something that's just begun, and we're just trying to make it happen. But that's been active, and there's a picture on my website of the Tifa, which is a 3 mile long spacecraft that's parked on the backside of Jupiter. And I've actually been aboard that spacecraft.
Wow.
And it's part of what I call my mission. And we can get into that in more detail later in the show. But yeah, it's all been covered up. And there's, literally thousands of civilizations out there. And they're not just in what we call our local solar system. When I originally did Art Bell, after I wrote the book Safe Space, and he grilled me for 3 hours.
Art was good at
But
it.
it was a great show. We had 10 million viewers and well, it was listeners back in those days. But it it's really something, because so many of the people that are out there have had encounters. They may not have been just like mine, but they're fully documented. And if a person takes a little time, does some research, there's no question, because now we've got physicists talking about the multiverse. And for those people that may not be aware of the multiverse, even Miku Keku, I never say his
Michio
name right.
Kaku. Yeah, Michio
Yeah,
Kaku, the physicist, yes.
yeah. He's even talking about the fact that there's multiple dimensions.
Oh, yeah. Art had him on his show talking about it plenty of times.
So when we talk now about being visited, or if there's a space program, we now know that there's interdimensionality, and that they can come and go, they can come cloaked. And we have regular shuttles that come in here all the time. There's some out at S4 in Area 51. Charles Hall, he's on one of our open files. He talks about the tall whites, but more than that, he talks about the fact that there's regular shuttles coming in of very large craft, and they're dropping off people, and the government and people are there. And a really fun aside is that he said when he went aboard one of the little scout craft, that the seats, it kind of resembled an RV because everything in it was right out of the plastic molding that was done by Lockheed, and it actually had Lockheed's name on it.
That,
So, it's fun stuff.
so that was one we made. It's,
Yeah.
it's got the Lockheed Martin stamp of I don't know, patent or whatever
Certification. Yeah,
certification.
right. Right.
But I remember when Bob Lazar talked about it. He made it sound like in the '80s that and of course, they might have known what Bob was up to if you know the story of him and John Lear.
Well, I know it
Yeah,
well. I know
yeah.
John Weir pretty
Oh,
well. Yeah.
I just got to talk to him the other night, by the way, at another radio
John
show.
Lear?
Yes, that was like a lifetime dream to get to talk to him. But the way Bob Lazar made it sound like is like they were way behind trying to figure this out. But maybe they showed Bob that on purpose.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
like they gave him a little glimpse to make for the Russians or somebody else to make it think they weren't as far ahead as they were. I've always wondered that because I mean, really, if you look at the real story of Bob Lazar. Him and John Lear knew each other before he went and worked at Area 51. He told John Lear, if I understand the story right, about working at Los Alamos and that, and John Lear kind of encouraged him to try to get a job at Area 51,
Yeah,
and things fell into
exactly.
place. So
Yeah,
they
what
could
year-
have they've been watching John Lear. They have.
Well, John Lear, he's just an amazing dude.
Yeah.
And, he cuts through the BS, and some of the stuff he tells people, of course, people don't want to accept, and that's fine. But I really value his opinion. Yeah. So, yeah, we're getting visited. We're getting visited by hundreds of different interdimensional and dimensional civilizations. And on my website, there's a symbol there, and it's also my logo. How do I show this?
You have to hold it up to your camera.
Yeah, it's what it is a token ring. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, maybe I can do this. No, that's the wrong way. No, that's even worse.
I think Jeff's looking for it.
That's the Sombrero Galaxy, but there on there somewhere will be a picture of a token ring. Maybe if you go, well, there
it is.
There it is. It's on the cover of my screenplay for
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there's hundreds of those out there, and they move them around, and they're all different sizes, and they leave them there for a while and then take them out. And that's the access point. Some people would call them black holes or
Really?
whatever. That's the access point for bringing things in and out of our three-dimensional universe up into what we call fifth space. So, yeah, interesting.
You bring up the multiverse, and it's something that I've always touted on this show for 3 years, and before this show to my people that had listened to me about UFOs, is that people like, well, why are there so many different kinds of aliens and ships? Why would they all be coming here? And one of the things I've always said is if you factor in the idea of multiple universes, parallel universes, that opens up the gateway for all kinds of possibilities. Not just infinite possibilities. People talk about you think about the 50s and the people who were talking about aliens from Venus, and stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
it's not. We laugh now, but if you think about the multiverse idea, there could be aliens from Venus, but from a parallel universe where Venus is habitable.
Exactly. Multiple reality and multiple
Exactly.
dimensional universe. You bet. But yeah, we did a lot of research for fast walkers, and some of that stuff, is totally true, totally documented. And like you say, it goes clear back to the 40s and the 50s when people were getting these craft visiting. And it's amazing. It totally changed my life. I wasn't into UFOs or any of this stuff at the time I had my encounter and was given my briefing, So it was all new to me.
So it's 50 years ago. We get into this a little bit because we're going to go to commercial break here in about 5 minutes. But it all started for you. You were a sailor. You got into sailboating.
Right.
And what year was all this? When was this all taking place for you?
Oh, it actually started back in probably '62. At the time, I was driving Corvettes and had speedboats, and that kind of thing.
Man of
And
intrigue.
yeah. And I was racing Corvettes. I had a fabulous race car and just having a ball. But, I was getting bored with it because you can only win so many races. And I had a wife and a young daughter. And one day I was down by the river launching my speedboat at this little marina, and I saw an old boat sitting there, and it was a gaff rig ketch, and it was called the Tanya, and there's pictures of it there on the website if you go to future projects or something. Anyway, someone mentioned to me that Columbia River out there is a gateway to a whole new world. And that kind of fascinated me. And long story short, I bought that old boat. And I was a welder. Yeah, there it is. It's the one on the right. I bought that old boat, and I didn't even know what dry rot was.
Oh, my God.
I bought it. I was a welder. I stuck a screwdriver through the bottom of the hull.
Oh, man.
And everybody said, well, burn it. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I went ahead and welded a steel hull up and put it on there and took out the woodwork, and had a great partner, Mike Stones. And the only problem was that old boat was slow. And I won't get into all of it, but it made me want a faster boat. So that's the one on the bottom right. And that's when we sailed to Hawaii and spent 2 years there. And that was where my encounter occurred, was at Alawaya Harbor in Honolulu, Hawaii.
I have a huge fear of the water. Oh, I'm getting echo now. Uh-oh. Is it gone? Okay, hopefully. Nope. Why am I getting echo? Uh-oh.
I'm not hearing it.
Okay. If you don't hear it, then it might be it's the splitter in your headphones. Yeah, it's fine. It'll go away. It's cool. It's fine. But I've always been fascinated by boats and everything, but I have a huge fear of the water. I have a huge fear of the water, but I love boats. I mean, I look at that catamaran, I'm like, man, I'd love to see inside of it, take it for a spin, and just not look out in the water.
Well, I tell you, once you sail on this new generation of cats and fries, it's amazing. The old Tanya did about, at the best 5 knots, and my trimarans did like, in a bad wind, maybe 25 knots. So, it's aircraft type construction, and it's a whole different world, Jason. I get seasick sometimes 1 or 2 days, and it passes, and the next thing you know, you're in the wonderful world.
Well, we'll get into that story and how you had your contactee experience when we come back from commercial break. People listening on Late Night in the Midlands, people watching on Facebook, I should say, we do play music out the Late Night in the Midlands radio network that you cannot hear on Facebook, because the Facebook would not like that. But you can listen at Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Go to the website, donate, and subscribe. I do understand the chat room is down tonight on Discord. They are going to have subscription chat room coming up soon. But go check out Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Donate, subscribe, do what you can to keep this great network going with so many wonderful shows and hosts. All right, guys, we'll be back with you in just a few minutes. Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Robert Douglas Miles, Hollywood producer, writer, director, and ET contactee. He had an experience over 50 years ago that changed his life, and definitely you can see influenced his career and what he does. We're going to get into that story tonight, guys. We will have open lines later for you to call and ask questions at the last hour of the show. It is a 3-hour show. tonight. For people listening, like I said, we are a webcast. Go check us out at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where you can watch the show. There is no, I played the worst promo I could have played was the one saying you can go to the chat room. It is down tonight, as far as I understand. They are working on a new subscription-based chat room where you can join. But we do have the Facebook chat room on the Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup Facebook webcast that we are doing right now. So if you're listening and you want to join a chat room, we do have that one there. You can join us on Facebook. Just go check it out. All right, guys, let's get back to our guest.
Hello, Jason.
Hello, Robert. So we were just starting to get into your story. Man, talking to you about it earlier about your experiences and just going out of the ocean. It seems so free. It seems like just a pirate's life for me. Kind of thing. That's what I feel like. I would live in the dream, except for my fear of oceans.
Yeah. Well, I really encourage your listeners and your team and yourself to think about the fact that on this planet, 95, maybe 98% of all the crime, all the disease, all the war occurs on land. So we have an option, and some people would call it a backdoor, to be able to get away from that at least part of the time. And especially if we end up with the kind of a future that I saw during my contact, if we don't use our free will to change things. And we can change reality. And I think that's the most important thing that I can talk about as we go forward in the show is that, if you're concerned about your family, if you're concerned about your own welfare, maybe you should have a backdoor hidey hole or something. For me, it's a lot more than that. So to go ahead and start into my story, and people can find it in a written form on the website under the menu there, Safe Space. It's called My Contact, or My Encounter, I think I call it. But what was happening, Jason, is that I'm going to start over in case some of the people are just tuning in. Okay, so way back in like 1964, I lived in Portland, Oregon, and I was a life insurance salesman selling debt.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, literally. And I was doing real well at it. I owned Corvette, race car, speedboat, water skiing all the time, owned property there in Clackamas County. I was married, had a child. And, the whole thing got kind of boring. So I was down by the river one day with my speedboat, and someone mentioned to me that the Columbia River out there was a gateway to a whole new world. So that kind of resonated with me, and I ended up buying that old boat, the Tanya, and replacing the dry rot with a steel hull. And my partner and I, Mike Sones, we launched it, and we enjoyed it. We learned about sailing and that kind of thing. But really, it just didn't do the trick. It didn't push my hot button. So I sold the boat, and I'd heard about this new kind of boat called the trimaran. So I went up to Seattle, and I went aboard a 47-footer, and I was just amazed because it defied all the general logic that marine architecture had for years, that, the old style boats go through the waves and they turn and go into the storms. But with these trimarans, not only were we fast, and some of mine did 25 knots, when the Tanya only did like 5. So that was the second one I built, Jason. The lower one is on that same page is the trimaran, which we call the Fun and Games.
What a
And
good
so,
name.
Well, that was pretty much what we were into at that time. And so we built the boat, launched it with the dream of sailing around the world. So we put a bunch of people aboard. Everybody kind of chipped in for gas and food, and we sailed the boat. We hit a storm off the California Oregon coast. We had never sailed before. We
Oh,
didn't know how
wow.
to navigate. We'd never been on the ocean before, and it blew us about 300 miles offshore from about 30
Oh, my
miles
God.
offshore. And so we missed San Francisco. Yeah, that's it, sitting in Newport Beach. And that boat, I tell you, opened a whole new way of life for us. And after that storm, we had 11 people aboard on that boat. And when we got into Monterey, because we missed San Francisco completely, about half of them left. They said,
Were you
you
guys kissing
know,
the ground when you got there?
yeah, yeah. Oh, we did. We
Oh,
got down on
wow.
our knees and kissed the earth, and really, it was so mind-boggling and so stressful for 3 days to be in 100-mile-an-hour winds,
I would have lost my mind.
50-foot seas, and we had a sister boat that went down with us, and they had to be towed in by the Coast Guard, and everybody left, and the owner sold the boat. But anyway, so we ended up spending some time all along the California coast, went to San Diego, and then took off for Hawaii, and we didn't know how to navigate. We had taken Coast Guard classes, but funny thing was, every time those Coast Guard guys had you take a section, take a noon sight or a sight, we'd end up 200 or 300 miles on land and in some other state. So we said, we know we're going to have to do it. So we just took off, and we had a couple of little books on how to take a noon sight. We had an RDF with a radio uh, instrument that allows you to do directional finding. We logged into a Hawaii station or where we thought it would be, and off we went. 23 days later, we landed in Hilo, Hawaii, and we hit it right on the nose. And funny thing about that is we thought we had passed through the islands because we thought we would see it uh, before we did. But after landing there in Hilo, we worked. I went to work as a sugarcane welder on sugarcane trailers, and our life became just a big party because everybody loved that boat. And we went from port to port, visited all the islands, surfing and partying and diving every day for our food, our fish. We saw turtles. We ate turtles. You know, people say, "Oh my God, you would kill a
Turtle's
turtle."
good.
Yeah, it's
Turtle
great.
soup. Mm-hmm.
But in those days there were a lot of them, and sadly, uh, every port I went to, we didn't have any money, so I worked as a painter in LOI Yacht Harbor there in Honolulu, and on the Wilk Hilton Waikiki, painted 1,500 rooms on different hotels, all the same colors. It was really boring. But more and more, I got bored and bored with the lifestyle. And I said to myself, there really must be something more to life. And I decided I didn't want to sail around the world. Uh, that made my partner very unhappy because he's a dedicated sailor. And I told him we're going to sell the boat. And within a week from the time we put the ad in, I had a check for $18,000, which back in those days, which would have been about 1970, that was a pretty good chunk of money.
Oh, yeah.
And I decided I was going to discover who I was and what I was all about. So now we get to the occurrence that has changed my life completely since that occurrence occurred over 50 years ago. On the morning we were going to deliver the boat, the people were coming down to take the boat. I got up at about 4:30 in the morning, went in and I got dressed. I went in and fixed a pot of coffee, went back to my bunk, sat there with a hatch open, watching the incredible breaking of the morning sky there over Allaway Yacht Harbor. And all of a sudden, there was the strangest light show started happening in my room. It was like sparkling. And I could feel this change of energy that was affecting me. And then suddenly, a beautiful woman materialized in my stateroom, standing right beside my bed. And the energy harmonic, when she materialized, was so incredible. I mean, a lot of people have stuck their finger in a 110 light socket or something, and you could feel that tickle. Well, this was like 440, only it was like totally orgasmic and pleasant. And so I immediately thought I was hallucinating, you know, or dreaming or
Somebody slipped you a
something.
Mickey. You know?
Exactly. So I said, this can't be happening. And she said, yes, it is. And I said, you can't be real. I must be dreaming. And she said, no, I'm as real as anyone you've ever met. She said, here, reach out, touch my arm. And I did, and I touched her arm, and her arm was solid, man. I mean, she was beautiful, and she had the most incredible uniform on. And in those days, there wasn't Lycra, but her uniform was like a blue, gorgeous, beautiful, sparkling blue with rainbow stripe that ran right across the chest of it. And so pretty soon I decided she was real. And I said, well, why are you here? And she said, well, I and my friends would like you to come to a briefing. And I said, okay. And okay. And
All
I
right.
said, how do I do it? And she said, just close your eyes and you'll be there. I said, I can't do that. And she said, oh, yes, you can. I can help you. And so I closed my eyes, and within an instant, I was in LaGuardia Airport in New York City. And she said, go up to the desk and ask for a ticket on the Jupiter flight. It's
At
already
LaGuardia
paid for.
Airport?
Right at LaGuardia Airport. And all around me, there were people. But I thought to myself, this is incredible. This can't be happening. But she said, go up and ask for your ticket on the Jupiter flight. So I did. And the woman there said, okay, what's your name? I said, Robert Miles. And she said, okay, we've got your ticket here. She handed me the ticket. She said, go over to that bank of elevators and take it up to the next concourse. So I went over, I got in the elevator. There was a young man and a boy in there. And within an instant, we were up on a concourse. It was fabulous. It looked like, it was all done in velvets and beautiful area. And another lady in a uniform, I guess you'd call her a space stewardess, she said, come on aboard. We'll be taking off in just a few minutes. And I went in. It was kind of like first class accommodations. I sat by a window, and next to me was a seat, but in between us was like this digital clock. And in those days, we didn't have digital clocks. And she said, we'll be taking off in just a couple of minutes. There was no seat belts. You didn't need any of that. Anyway, suddenly I looked out through the porthole, and I saw the Earth. And it was about the size of the moon. And it kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And in just a matter of minutes, I heard, we're landing now. We'll be disembarking. And we landed. I disembarked on a moving conveyor. And as I came out of the craft, I felt this incredible energy again. And it was just amazing. My feet weren't even touching the ground, really. And the sky was the most incredible harmonic of color of every description. It was so vibrant and amazing. And I just felt like I don't know, it was like overwhelmingly a pleasant experience. And when I got to the bottom of the uh, walkway there, I was met by a couple of people and they said, welcome, and in just a few minutes we'll take you to your briefing. So they took me to a briefing. There, I want to describe the buildings and everything. It
Yeah,
was
please.
beautiful,
I'm totally interested.
beautiful green, the whole area, and the buildings were not tall, and they were white, and I think probably most of them were below ground. But it was the most environmentally friendly place I've ever been. And when I got into the briefing, there were about probably 50 people in there, or at least they had the form of a people. And a lot of people say, well, you were abducted. And I said, no, I wasn't abducted. I went willingly. And in the matter of a short time, I was introduced to, some people would call it the Akashic Records, only I don't know exactly how to describe it except to say that I was shown the past as our planets had been down through the centuries, eons. And then I was also shown the present and the future. And I say that that's the probable future because we have free will. And if we exercise our free will, we can change what I saw. But God help us if we don't change it, because it was massive destruction. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, wars, death, disease, starvation, no power, groups and gangs. It was so frightening that it totally changed my life. And they asked me to take on a mission. And my mission was to go back and help change the consciousness of the planet. And I decided after that, that energy and what I've just seen, that I had no choice. And it was an incredible challenge, but I agreed. And then I spent what I would consider to be a few hours, maybe 5 or 6 hours, just kind of visiting the planet, going out to the shore, and it was the most incredible seashore, most beautiful people and energy all the time. I was there. This energy harmonic of mine was lifted so high. And then suddenly I heard, you need to go back because someone's knocking on your stateroom door. And they said, just decide you're there. And I did. And I had my partner knocking on the door of my stateroom saying, Robert, where are you? Wake up. The owners are here. I need to talk about time dilation because it seemed like I was on that planet, that Jupiter in some dimension, whether it's the same dimension that we're currently on, I'm not sure. And for 30 years, nobody talked about multiple dimensions. Nobody talked about the compression of time. And everybody said, you're crazy. And that was one of the things on the Art Bell show when we had 10 million viewers or listeners. You know, they really questioned me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
everybody, about half of them said, you're crazy. But I came back. I didn't know anything about television or radio. And I took a class at a community programming station learned how to edit, learned how to shoot, and began my mission at writing the book Safe Space, which was sold to Columbia Pictures, and I worked 2 years with Columbia. We had a $3 million budget. It was green lighted. Michael Greskoff was the producer, and Douglas Trumbull, who did 2001, and Battlestar Galactica. Great team, $3 million, and they rewrote the script 6 times and changed my good guy to an assassin. And the project was never done. But
gotta love Hollywood.
since that time, I have dedicated my life to carrying out that mission. And I still am. I'm on that mission, and it's not been easy. There's been very, very wonderful high times, but there's been devastating low times, destructive to my financial and my life. Lost my marriage, got out of touch with my daughter. You know, all the things that people do when they think you're blasted out of your mind and insane.
Well, yeah, I mean, you tell any, trying to, wow, I'm getting that echo really bad. Darn it.
I'm not hearing it.
Yeah, it's probably because it's coming from your end, from the headphones somehow are splitting it. Maybe try unplugging them and plugging them back in. Let's try that really quick. I just want to make sure we can kill the echo. Now I don't hear it.
Oh, no.
Oh, then of course it goes away when I threaten it.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's like a little bit of reverb. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want, that's the on camera mic.
Yeah, go ahead and plug them back in. Sorry, Robert. I just want to make sure we get this. So sorry.
Okay. You got me?
I gotcha, and I think it's still not gonna. I think it switched you on Hangouts, but I gotcha. I don't think it's coming through the headphones now because of that. Because I had you unplug them. It's all right. We can hear you just fine, though. Sorry, Robert. Just was getting that echo, so I wanted to make sure we got rid of that. You're gonna have to sit closer. The only thing I could say, sorry, Robert. I just want to make sure we get this right. Darn it. You remember the little settings bar on the Hangouts? If you go up to the top, little cogwheel.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yep. Just gotta make sure we get this. Sorry, guys, technical problems. Didn't know it was gonna do this when I told him to unplug his headphones.
Okay, you want me to click the cogwheel?
Yep, and I want you to select your input as the headphones.
External microphone, that's what it is.
Yep. So you want to? Is there another option?
System default speaker device.
Select system default, maybe.
Okay, that's going to be.
Or you said
internal.
external? Hit the external one. Hit that. That should do it. Sorry, hang in there with us, audience. I hate to interrupt, but I hate echo.
Yeah, it should be external mic.
External mic, yep.
You want me to select my computer mic?
No, select your external. Select that again, see if it saves it.
I did. It didn't change, I don't think.
Okay. Well, just make sure you sit closer when you talk, because if you sit back,
Like
we
a
can't hear you as
headphone
well.
mic or anything?
Yeah, I think him unplugging it screwed it up. Sorry, but Robert, we'll continue. Just make sure you sit closer. Don't back up when you talk, because it'll be hard to hear you.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Robert. Anyways, I'm sorry we got off track there. But we're talking about this experience. You had to wonder while you're going through it. I mean, at any time did it felt like everything was solid, real to you, not dreamlike. It was completely real. A lot of people would lose their minds even if it was that. You said it was peaceful. I mean, it had to have blown you had to at some point kind of panicked about it or anything. Most people would freak out in that experience.
Well, not really, because first of all, when I came back, it was like my feet didn't touch the ground for 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
My energy harmonic was raised so high that the only thing that was real to me was that what I saw in the future for this planet was so devastating and so catastrophic that I had no choice but to continue doing it. And a lot of people say, well, why didn't you ask them who they are, what they're doing? But man, I was just captivated.
Stunned, maybe,
Yeah, for sure.
deer in headlights, especially if they show you that experience and all that. I want to get more into that idea of the multiverse. And one of the things I keep thinking about when you talked about what them showing you about the future is one of my favorite lines from Star Wars, I got many, is Yoda says, "The future is always in motion," meaning it can be changed. And we'll get into that, what you saw and what we can do to change it. All right, guys, we do play music out to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. You cannot hear on Facebook. So don't freak out. You're going to hear a little bit of quiet, and then you'll hear the commercials, and then we'll be back with our guest, Robert Douglas Miles. We're going to get more into his ET contact experience. Not an abduction. There is a difference. I've had abductees on. They've been taken against their will. Robert willingly went out to Jupiter, or Jupiter from a parallel universe. Went on a space ride across the universe. How awesome would that be? That's living the dream, Robert, to me. That's living the dream. I would be just as stunned as you. All right, guys, we'll be back after this commercial break. Tonight, our guest is Robert Douglas Miles, Hollywood producer, writer, director of many shows. You can find the Alien Chronicles on Amazon Prime. Like I said before the show, or at the beginning of the show, I had seen a lot of his movies, never knew he did these. And now tonight we're learning what influenced Robert to make these movies. He's a man on a mission because he saw what our future might hold. Because as I said before the break, as Yoda would say, the future is always in motion, meaning we can change it. We will have open phone lines after the last hour of the show. We'll open those up, but not right now. We got more of the story to get into, so let's get back to our guest. Welcome back, Robert.
Hey, thank you, Jason, and thank your team, because without people like you folks, the veil that we live behind would be impossible to penetrate. And it's so important that people everywhere, not just my stuff and what I'm doing, because there's so many light workers. And I just want to say we need to rally together and make this change.
So when you were shown this future, and for people, if you're just catching in, Robert was taken on a trip to Jupiter, but Jupiter was a planet. I mean, you had an atmosphere. You're walking outside, right? You weren't just like in some kind of base on Jupiter. You were outside, had an atmosphere, and I assume there was different alien species, or did everybody look human walking around? I was going to ask you that too.
No, everybody had a human form. Now, there's a lot of evidence that some of these interdimensionals can shapeshift, or wear whatever construct is acceptable. So I have no idea, but I didn't get the Star Wars bar treatment.
The cantina, yeah. Yeah.
It didn't want to freak me out because I was already freaked out by the task that was laid before.
Well, one of the things I found interesting about what you talked about is how you felt the energy like lifted you up, the energy there. It sounds, when you say it, it sounds like you were in a different plane of existence.
Well, I don't think so.
No?
Could have been. But what I've come to believe after meeting all of these investigators and all these contactees is that really what's going on here is it's all a big lie that we live with. And the story that's been put out by the mainstream media, NASA, the whole gang, is that our local universe is uninhabitable. And I think it's very, and there's a lot of evidence about that. If we really knew what's going on in the moon, if we really knew what was going on in Jupiter and Mars, especially, you know, we'd have a completely different reality of what is right here in our own solar system.
And we're obviously, I think we all can agree, we think the government knows about all this and keeps it a secret. What is the main reason you think they keep it a secret, besides freaking everybody out?
Okay, well, first of all, I think it has quite an effect on religion. And if I'm not a person that says religion is bad, but I think that religion is, to a large extent, control mechanism. And, it pits us against not only other denominations, but against other peoples. Because I think one of the most disturbing aspects of what's going on in the planet, Jason, is that war is a driving economic force. And compartmentalization. Now, this is where it gets important. It's not just the economy and the effect of the economy. It's that we're so compartmentalized. And I've been fortunate to have traveled a lot of places and met a lot of people. And I haven't met a single one that thought I was a bad person because I was an American. And they had a lot of reason to. Our contract in Nicaragua and Honduras and Salvador, we're responsible for so much bloodshed and mayhem. And they keep us compartmentalized and thinking that we're defending ourselves. And in reality, we're not defending ourselves at all. And now there's another aspect. This planet is one of the major sources of mercenaries to go to other wars on other planets and interdimensional, because we come out so well trained that we are not only brutal and cruel, we follow orders. And so one of our major exports from this planet is mercenaries. And another major export is sex slaves. And
it's a big topic lately.
Yeah. So, I just want to say that people out there that I've met have been warm and friendly and generous. And what's amazing is, in spite of their economies, like when I was in Nicaragua, the rate of exchange was 19-1.
Wow.
Okay. So the best job you could get if you made $5 American a day was a great job. And it's so unfair to all of those countries that we can't have a peaceful planet. And what we do have is we have the destruction of their economies, not for just the United States purposes, because we're not talking about a country that's doing this. We're talking about a group of outsiders, not necessarily from Earth, that are driving this program that dominates our existence as humans here on this planet. And that is staggering if you stop to think of it. Some people will talk about the Anunnaki, some people will talk about the Ebens and the different species that control what could be called the Intergalactic Federation or the world of planets or whatever. It's
Billy Myers talked about the Pleiadians, I believe, too. A lot of races involved in this, it seems like.
So I don't have all the answers,
Mm.
You know, what I've got are some experiences that kind of dominate my way of thinking right now. And I'm subject to change. I mean, I love it if somebody can help me understand because this is quite a puzzle. And I think it's important maybe that you show that clip on Fast Walkers, that trailer, because, you know, even though for quite a while I did little films and things, Fast Walkers was a special project of the Safe Space Foundation. And the Safe Space Foundation is alive and well and active, as we'll get into later in this. But Fast Walkers was a huge success. And that clip is a trailer for that came out with it. So let's look at that if you can load it.
That was the one you had the YouTube link for, right?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have that ready, Jeff? I think he does. He had it ready earlier, I think. Let me see if Jeff's there. Otherwise, I can play it. Let's see. Jeff's pulling it up yet? No. Let me see. I think I have it here. Hold on. No, I don't. Hold on. That's right. I have
All
to have
this
the link.
technology.
I'm calling him over right
Oh,
now.
he's got it. He's working on it. We got it right here. This is it. Alien Agenda, Planet Earth.
Oh,
Let me.
I don't think that's it.
Hold on 1 second, Jeff. Hold on. That's from the YouTube link you gave me. I gave him in Messenger.
Okay, maybe it works. Go ahead and do it.
All right, we'll play it. We'll see. Hold on. Let me get my screen up here.
That'll play. It's a recut of the Hollywood version of this.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Jeff. He's trying.
Technology. I'm amazed by what you guys can do. I love your animations.
Yeah, that's made by our friend Bill Padera. He's a great computer graphics artist. Made the logo and everything. You have the right video, Jeff. All you got to do is play it. Well, we think it's the right video, maybe. This is the link I gave you in Facebook Messenger.
Well, we can talk as it's loading.
Yeah, he's looking for it right now.
Okay, you ready? Okay.
But
Anyway.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, Fast Walkers was a group of people that came together, and basically there were four of us. There was my son Anthony T. Miles, who's a television producer in Gilbert, Arizona. There was a really great guy in Germany called Bruce Jessup, and there was a wonderful guy by the name of Storian who lived in Bulgaria, and then myself. And so we created this film, and it took us about 1.5 years in production to do it. And the end result was that we won quite a few awards and have premiered it all over. Paul Hellyer, some people may be aware of him. He was the vice premier of Canada and also the head of the Department of Defense for Canada. He came to the premiere and endorsed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wanted to. I've had a number of guests that know Paul Hellyer, and I've always wanted to talk to him because people are not familiar. He was the Canadian. He was the defense minister. Was that his position?
Also vice premier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And came out and announced that there are other alien species. Our governments know about it. The U.S. government knows about it. We have technology from those aliens, and we're being lied to. And very brave man, in my opinion, to come out.
And at that time, when he saw Fast Walk, he wasn't exposed to all this information. There was a wonderful guy by the name of Steve Bassett, who's the head of PRG and also a lobbyist, the only registered lobbyist for UFOs. Steve Bassett held the X-Con with this amazing guy. And he really helped to educate Paul. Okay.
He's got that's the link. I just checked it myself. The link you gave me. This is the link you gave me.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe I'll find it during the next break.
Okay. If he finds it, I'll send it to you, or send it to me, and I'll send it to Jeff.
Yeah. Well, back to your questions.
Yeah.
About the experience. I'll be happy to continue with that.
Yeah. One of the things too, I wondered about your experience is the when they showed you the vision of the possible, future. Did they show you a positive version too, like in a way that if we change things, this is what could be, how good things could be?
No,
No.
because the scale was so great. I mean, so few people at that time. Remember, this is clear back in like 71.
Oh yeah.
So few people knew about, this new wave of cosmic consciousness. The light workers were just starting to emerge. And at that time, the balance on the scale of what we faced was, we didn't have a 1 or 2% chance of changing the future before the time travel. And that's another thing. It's almost impossible to predict the time track because of the dilation that occurs in these different dimensionalities. And when you said that maybe I was in another dimension or another Jupiter, that's possible because of time dilation. It seemed like I was there for maybe 8 hours, but I was only gone like 49 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you? I have to be interested when your friend was knocking on the door and you woke from this. I mean, what was your first thought?
I wasn't asleep. I didn't awake.
Well, I should wake. I'm sorry. It just feels like you would like that transition from there to that. It was just like that. You were still totally conscious.
It's instantaneous. What we didn't realize at that time and didn't for a long time afterwards until we got into the multidimensionality that you don't need to ride a physical craft to be something. And there's a lot of people that are talking about jump rooms and different things where they get into an elevator and the next thing they know, they're on another planet. All of that's becoming pretty well known now and pretty well substantiated. I mean, you've got people that have no reason to lie saying they've been on Mars,
Oh yeah.
or they've been on the moon, or they've been somewhere else. So, back to your Space Force thing, is there a Space Force? Well, look what happened to our poor friend Gary McKinnon.
Oh yeah.
When
Oh
he
yeah.
just revealed a little bit about the reality of what's going on in there. When was that? I mean, that was, 15 years ago?
Has it been that long since he first hacked into NASA's records? Has it been that long?
I'm not sure, but I know he's one brave cat.
Well, he's still wanted by our government.
Yeah,
They would lock him up if they get their hands on him.
yeah, there's been rumors that they've dropped those charges. I don't know if that's true.
Or they're like, we might have dropped the charges. Come back to the USA. And then, boom, put the handcuffs on him. I always found the McKenna story so interesting. I think I remember, when he was looking at the files that they said they had terrestrial officers is what they called them.
I'm terrestrial.
Oh yeah, and that they had names of ships like the USS Enterprise, which I'm a big Star Trek fan. I love that, and the USSS Hillenkotter. And people are familiar. Admiral Hillenkotter is one of the people that most people think was one of the original members of Majestic 12, the first secret agent government group that studied UFOs. That was revealed in the 80s. So that whole story is really interesting. But my question is our Space Force working with the aliens that took you, or are they working for the bad ones that are trying to, like you said, you're destroying other countries and our own and up to nefarious things?
Well, now I've done some research on this, but one of the people that I think highly of is a person by the name of Dan Lewis. And he's introduced me to the idea that there's two different groups within the Space Force. There's the Navy Space Force and the Air Force Space Force.
Oh.
And apparently the Navy Space Force is very pro people and this planet, while the Air Force space program is working with, you want to call them the negatarians or the negative ETs. And so there's a dichotomy.
Right.
And there really is a war going on. And there's wars going on all over. But yet there is a governing council, kind of like the UN. But quite frankly, like the UN, it's basically just talk and no real results.
Well, you would think the good ETs probably go by what is from another Star Trek reference. We have Star Wars and Star Trek reference. Yes, I'm a geek. Is the prime directive. Not to interfere, that we have to make our choices. We have to change things. That's why they would show you something like that, but they can't come in and just fix it for us.
Well, see, I totally disagree with that because they interfered with me.
It's true.
And I think that what's going on is that each civilization has its rules. But frankly, we're getting so close to what I would consider to be the time track of that particular situation,
Right.
that some of them, maybe they're bending the rules. I don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It could be like a Kirk move, you know? You know, he didn't obey the rules. There was a prime directive, but boy, did he violate it through all those seasons of Star Trek, you know, at least 3 seasons that aired in the 60s.
But hey, there's people getting contacted all the time and getting these kind of experiences. But a lot of people, you know, their reality is such that they almost can't accept it. And the last thing they're going to do is talk about it. And then, you know, there's the other people, the MyLab stuff, where there's no question our government is involved with that group. And we've written a book called Lycanthropes, which is kind of a futuristic sci-fi thing, but it's all based on fact, that talks about the Freedom War, and that there's going to emerge a war between the forces of evil, which includes what we call the Fetties, and the Chinese, and the other governments of the world. And the people of the world revolt against that. But the story is set primarily in the United States. And by the way, Chip Rosenthal, who is one of your co-hosts,
Great host.
Read the pre-preface and 2 chapters. It's free there on the website. So I listen to it at the book, like
Yeah, I definitely want to check out that book. It sounds amazingly interesting. It's fiction, but like you said, you based it off of all the research stuff, your experiences, and that. That's what like interests me. We originally were going to bring Robert and your associate Leslie Mitz on to do a Dogman show. She couldn't make it tonight, but when I discovered about your story and your experiences, like, oh well, we will do a Dogman show eventually. But this is such an incredible story that does need to be told. It does need to be told. We're going to have other abductees on too, or abductees. He's a contactee, but there's other people, different experiences. One thing is, you're talking about her uniform. You know, she had the rainbow thing across her chest. I just read a book by Terry Lovelace. He's an abductee. The difference, people, contactee. Robert went willingly. Terry did not, and it scarred him. And he talked about aliens. You know, he had the gray aliens and the mantis-like aliens in his experiences, and people in uniforms. They were wearing like tan uniforms with an orange emblem. And you've heard this from other abductees. When we get back for commercial break, I'd like to delve into what you found about the different factions. If you know what information you know about that, who's siding with who that you know. I know you don't know it all. You know, you're just what you've been able to experience. But I'd like to get your input on that because it's something that fascinates me. I call it the secret war. You know, and I know other people have too. That's going on right now around us, and it's affecting what's going on in the mainstream media news you're seeing right now, I believe too. All right, guys, people watching on Facebook, we do play music out the late night in the Midlands. I know I have to say it every time, but I just don't want you to freak out because you will hear some quiet when we while we cut to commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to open up the phone lines. You can call in. Ask Robert your questions or share your own ET experience. If you've had them, this is the place to come on. We believe you. This is an open forum for you to come on and share your experiences. We all have to speak out and start telling the truth of what we experience. I have something coming up soon. I have my own experiences. I have never really revealed on this show when it comes to aliens that I've been delving deeply into. Coming soon, I will be talking more about that. Well, I have to start speaking my own truth. All right, guys, we'll be back with you in just a few minutes. Yes, you can call into the show tonight. For people watching, we play music you can't hear. But anyways, you can call into the show tonight. There's a number of ways you can do it. There is the Soup Live Chat, 800 Live Chat Skype ID. I don't know if it's going to work tonight. We had problems with it last week, but that one we can see you by video. Robert can see you. If it doesn't work, be ready to call back on one of these other lines. The other Skype IDs are 00 J Bland 00 Skype ID 00 JBLAND 00, and we're sharing that in the Facebook chat room as well. And then there's the J Bland Paranormal Soup Skype ID you can call in as well. There's also a phone line if you want to call in the old-fashioned way at 219-230-4444 219-230-4444. Call in. Ask us your questions. You've been listening to the show. You got a question for Robert about his experience? Call in. Or did you have your own ET experience? Or you're a contactee or abductee? We believe you. I believe you. Don't feel embarrassed to call in. If you want to call in and be anonymous, just say your first name. That's all you got to do. Tell us about your experience. Maybe Robert can relate something to you. Maybe I can. I've had something coming I'm going to talk about in the next few weeks. But call in. This is the place. We are an open forum, an open place for you to share your paranormal experiences. Let's get back to our guest. Thank you for hanging in there with me, Robert, for this last hour of the show. The phone lines are open, people. You can call in and ask Robert a question. So, talking about this tonight and your experience makes me want to know, like, what, I think about the stuff that happens, like I said, you see on the mainstream media, just recently we were bombing Syria and stuff. And we could be heading into a World War III with Russia. The bad stuff you saw could be coming very, very soon when we're heading these kind of things happening around us in the world that we are able to see. But it's what's going on behind the scenes that really interests me. You talked about our U.S. Navy and our Air Force being two different factions. One working with the U.S. Air Force working with the bad ETs. And that would make sense to the book I read, Terry Lovelace. He was in the Air Force when he had his incidents, and the Air Force did not treat him kindly. I'll tell you that right now. And then the Navy being on the good guy side. So we have factions within our own government fighting each other. What about, like you mentioned China? What is it the similar situation in China? They have separate factions in there, or they side with the bad aliens or the good aliens? Have you been able to find any of that out?
Well, I think that people have to realize that it's one thing what the governments are doing on behalf of this incredible federation. It's another thing what the people and the individuals are doing. And, the real blessing is that we have the internet. And, of course, they're trying to control that as well.
Well, look what they did to Alex Jones. They've completely. They just the other day took his app off of the Apple Store even. And I've said it before. I'm not a huge Alex Jones fan. I have my issues with him, but we need Alex Joneses. We need the truth, at least about what's going on. He doesn't get into the alien thing, but guess what? They'll be next. Derek
Yeah.
Tyler on YouTube, or not Derek Tyler. That's a different alien guy. The Secure Team. All of his UFO videos. He could be next. He could be right off of YouTube because they don't want that out there.
Well, I think it's important that later in the program, before the show ends, and boy, what happened to time dilation?
Right.
It's gone so
It goes by fast. Mm-hmm.
That we talk about this new safe space boat program, because people, honestly, people should be enjoying life. They should have adventure and fun and excitement, not just an escape route, but, a whole new way of life, a chance to interact with people and different cultures. Because when we build that boat, we're going to build it here in Chattanooga, but it's going to sail down and come out in Florida, and we're going to take a cruise over to the Bahamas. We're going to check out some of the stories about Atlantis, because
Oh, wow.
I know people that have dove on those ruins, and they're there. And again, it's all part of the cover-up, and
Is that off the Bimini Islands?
right? And there's just so many. It's
I've heard incredible stories.
Yeah, well, there's so much that's been covered up, and the museums have helped to cover it up.
Oh, yeah.
The archaeologists have helped to cover it up. And we've got chemtrails, and we've got so many things. We've got
Pharmaceuticals.
fluoride in the water. Fluoride in the water.
Oh, God, yes.
It's poisoning. It's killing people. There's viruses and disease. And let's have some fun out of life. Let's go down, and hopefully we'll attract a few people that are willing to work, because they're going to have to help build the boat, and they're going to be owners, and it's a big responsibility. And so that's up there on the website. People can click on it. There's a video on it, and also there's a page on it. So it would be nice if before the show ends, we could show a picture of the Safe Space 1P prototype.
Jeff, if you could look for that on the website.
Picture projects, if you scroll down the page. Yeah.
Okay. Jeff will probably be on the lookout for that. If not, I'll find it and we'll share it. But yeah, I'm still, the different factions, like I said, it's like a secret war going on. And I want to live my life. I'm a parent. I have 2 kids. I want to see them have a future and live a life of adventure and fun. And the world seems to be against that. Things are happening around us, and we're leading up to something. It's
all programming. We're all being set up. We're rats in a cage. And unfortunately, we're in an experimental laboratory.
But this might be the reason why some aliens are breaking their prime directive. And I bring that up too. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Gene Roddenberry, but he belonged. And I don't remember all the details of that, but he belonged to a group of people who you talked about the Thal Society. They channeled to get that alien technology. Well, this group in America in the 50s channeled aliens, and Gene Roddenberry, not many people know, was a part of this group. And then he comes out with this show, Star Trek, and the Federation. And you hear a lot of contactees and abductees, but especially contactees, talk about this Federation. What is the Federation? What have you been able to learn about this Federation?
Well, I think it's got so many layers and so many levels. But if you just reduce it down to simplicity, you've got 2 major forces that are trying to bring about, either we can have Earth as an Eden, and we can have access to the stars, or we can have chaos, confusion, devastation, death, and an end to our society. Like, I recently visited the Georgia Guidestones.
Oh, yeah.
And shot some video on that. And, right there, nobody really knows who put the Guidestones up, but the dictates are for a planet of 500 million.
Yeah,
right
a
now,
big reduction of population there.
Yes. billion or 7 billion almost now. So their plan is to exterminate us. You know, if you're concerned about your family,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
your family faces extermination unless you're one of the fortunate ones that are selected to be one of their slaves. So
Right.
this is a real game.
Yeah.
And the consequences of this game is very serious. There it is.
Yeah,
That's
this is the
the
ship.
Yeah, that's the one we want to build. But what we're going to build is a much smaller version.
Got to start
Because,
somewhere.
yeah, it's going to be probably about 6,000 square feet of space.
That's still pretty big.
Yeah, and there's going to be room for 8 people, and it's going to be they're able to bring their families. You know, we'll have a few pets aboard. But the purpose of this first step ship is to go out in the world and demonstrate that people from all walks of life, every creed, country, religion, can work together for a common goal. It's going to be a model. And we're going to leave behind, hopefully, a shipyard where people can construct boats of their own. And also, we can build a larger ship. Now, originally, I wanted to build a larger ship in Nicaragua, but, you know, there's so much chaos down there.
Yeah.
It's so sad because the people are who suffer. And it's all tied up around resources. They have so much oil. The
Right.
whole coast there.
But that's why there is chaos, because there's forces that want to destroy these governments or have these resources, so eventually they can take it over and they can have those resources.
It's been happening forever. If anyone
Mhm.
checks history of what we've been involved in, but it's not just us. It's the Canadians. It's the Germans. It's everybody, because to this group that controls that program, they don't have nationalities. You know, they simply have loyalties to a higher goal. And that goal is the extermination of life as we know it.
Now, when you were shown this vision, were you given any clue to how that, were you shown exterminations like that? Were you shown anything that would give you a clue of how that would happen?
Well, basically, Dr. Len Horowitz, he wrote the book on AIDS and Ebola way back. And he was the first one to educate me on the fact of all these diseases and plagues and AIDS and, you know, all that stuff. It's all program that's run. And so did they get into it? No, they didn't. But I still have ongoing communication. In other words, my experience just didn't happen then. It continues to happen. And every time I do a show like this, the energy harmonic increases to the point that I can feel the difference. And people say, how would you know if you met a real alien?
Right.
Well, all I can say is that they're a real alien. If they want you to know they are, their energy harmonic is going to be incredible. And it's not only going to be incredible from them, it's going to lift you up. It's going to impact you to the point that if they want it to, you'll never be the same. And that's not just positive, that's negative.
So have you been, after that experience, you've been taken other times by the aliens?
Not taken in the same sense of the
Offered a ride?
I've had the opportunity to visit different places. I've had the opportunity to be aboard the Starship Tifa, which is a 3-mile long spacecraft that's parked just behind Jupiter. I've had the opportunity to communicate, but more to the point is I've been given mission orders to build this ship. And that ship is going to be a model. And it's going to take a tremendous commitment on the part of myself, Leslie Mitz. I'm incredibly fortunate to have her as my partner, advisor, and love her. And she has been abducted. She's a person that's even had, and she doesn't talk about it very often, she's actually had the experience of being told she has hybrid children and
Oh,
meeting
wow.
those children. Okay.
And this
So,
would be the bad alien since she was abducted. Is that your opinion?
well, you see, Dolores Cannon is a fascinating person.
Hmm.
She says it's all good.
See, I
That
don't believe that. I'm sorry. I just
we're
don't.
being upgraded, you know,
Hmm.
that these hybrid and this taking of women to have hybrid children is part of the upgrade program. Now, there is a program running all over the universe called Primitive Uplift. And Primitive Uplift, a big example of it was the Cherokee Indians.
I'm Cherokee, big time,
Oh,
and a lot of ancestry in that. Yes.
yeah, well, the Cherokee, as you know, they had an accelerated situation where within a year they had their own language, that their own they could write.
They said they
their own
came. They in their own history of the Cherokee is much a lot of talk about star people.
exactly. So primitive uplift is going on now. Is it a bad thing? Let's say it's a forked path. You know, it can go either way. And Jason, we are the ones that decide which way it's going to go. We've got free will. God help us if we don't exercise that. And the things that I saw and experienced, I didn't just see them, I experienced them.
Right.
Okay.
That'll change your view on everything. When you have, I couldn't imagine having that kind of experience. For an abductee, this is the difference. I really like to get into this. You're a contactee. You went consciously in and you chose to go. For an abductee, their brains are erased of the instance most of the time. They don't remember until instance make them remember, or they have regression, hypnosis and regression, and then they can remember the experiences. And that, to me, that makes a big difference about if you're forcibly taken. It's just no way in my mind can I accept that as all right. Because the experiences of abductee are horrific. And there's nothing in me that would make them seem like good aliens or our friends if they're taking us by force, messing with our reproductive systems, having you have children, and then taking them away. And, none of those things are polite aliens or have aliens that have any care for you. And in the hybrid situation, I've always thought about that is maybe it could be good, but at the same time, are we going to be replaced?
Well, Truman made an agreement with the aliens.
Yes.
And the agreement was they could take humans, and in exchange, we got technology. And the world hasn't been the same since. Thank God we've still got people out there that don't want that reality. And you guys are part of that.
Truman would have been the idiot to make that deal. I know my older watchers that believe Truman got us out of World War II, dropping the nuclear bomb and all that stuff. Do your history research. I'm not a fan of Truman, not at all. And he would be the one idiot present to make that kind of deal, because I think you made a deal in secret without the permission of your people that is completely horrendous. To take people against their will for whatever reasons is wrong. It's completely wrong, and that would be the idiot present to make that deal. I'm sorry if people are Truman fans. I'm not. I do want to remind callers, because I don't have the Discord chat room for people listening to Late Night Radio. If you do want to call in, there is the 219-230-4444 call-in line. You can call in on Skype ID 00JBland00, or JBland Paranormal Soup is another Skype ID you can call in and ask us your questions or share your own ET experience. Were you an abductee or a contactee? What I feel is, too, you hear a lot more abductee stories. You don't hear as many contactee stories. There's definitely plenty of contactee stories out there, but you hear more and more of the people that have the abductee experience. For you, well, what do you think? Why did they pick you? Why are you the contactee? What is it?
I was ready. I had reached the point where in my life where I knew that I didn't want to sail around the world, that I wanted to find out who I was, why I was on this planet, and what's it all about out here, you know? And so that, and plus I made the move. I just didn't think about it. See, there's such a difference between all of these people that think about this and they look into it and they research it and they do all this stuff, but they never take it from thinking to doing, because doing is frightening. Doing is change. And we as humans are scared to death of change. I mean, what happens if I change my life? I mean, what's going to happen to my kids? Or what's going to happen to my job? Or how am I going to live? Or maybe I'll get lost at sea. Or, I mean, there's a...
Obviously, you didn't worry about any of that when you did that. You guys were pretty bold.
Yeah, but what I've discovered is every time that I've gone out there, it's been rewarding. And yeah, it's been frightening. And yeah, there's been ups. And yeah, there's been downs. But hey, I'm still doing it. And if an old guy like me can still be doing it, there's got to be people up there that have said, I hate my life. This sucks. I don't like being a wage slave. I don't like worrying about, can I fill the gas tank tomorrow to get to work?
I am a wage slave. I've been there under that kind of stress. And one of the reasons why I started doing this show, because I needed an outlet. I needed to do what I wanted to do. And this is why I'm here, why I'm here tonight, because this is what I care about. Besides, number one is my family.
Yeah. Well,
but this is a part of that, you know, because I want to understand what's happened to me, and I want other people to have that forum to be able to do that, so we can change how the world is and how we talk to each other about these experiences, so my children have that opportunity too.
Well, one thing to remember is that there's wonderful people out there, and I don't blame them for not wanting to change. I went through the same thing myself. Every time I start a new project like this boat owner project and building the prototype, scary. And my kids said, at your age, you're going to try another ship. And, you know, when we built the Fairweather 1, that's a 3,000 square foot deck and interior space with an 80-foot sail. Wow. And, you know, it was the largest catamaran, private catamaran in the world at the time. And, you know, it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. You know, we had people mutiny, but the incredible thing about it is that during the year that we were building the ship, we built the ship in 1 year, okay, based on my design. But during that year, we didn't have a single problem. People worked jobs, they put in some money, so they owned a share, and they worked on the boat. And what I found out is suddenly these people had a purpose in life. Suddenly they had a goal, you know, and it wasn't until we launched the boat that we started having problems, and the big problems with drugs. 2/3 of my crew.
Fun and games, man.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't the fun and games. We had a no drink policy, and every time we took the ship out, the Coast Guard followed us back in and went through the boat. And I told them, I don't care if you smoke pot, just don't bring it on the boat or smoke it on the boat. But that caused a major chaos, because that was part of their lifestyle.
Well, it should be legal. I'm a libertarian. It drives me nuts that people can't see how stupid the laws are on this. I was a police officer for a very short period of time and decided I couldn't do it because I can't agree with the laws. Yeah. And you know, but yeah, that you can't be out in the ocean with any kind of drugs because you will get busted.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, have you got any callers sitting there with a question?
No, I don't, but I do have we have a regular caller, Zach, who calls in, but it's his wife's birthday, and he did have a question, so I want to get that in now that I think about that, because he always has really good questions, and he really wanted to ask you some questions tonight, and he wrote me because he couldn't call in tonight. So let me get Zach had his first question. He goes, does Robert believe that UFO activity is extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or terrestrial based? Well, I think you covered that quite a bit.
Yeah, all of the above.
All of the above. So there you go, Zach. There's that one. His second question was, working in the film industry for many years, what is the biggest obstacles to creating a documentary film, etc., and why?
Well, anytime you're dealing with film, and it's changed a lot, because it used to be you had to shoot and film, but now
35 millimeter, yep.
Yeah, now it's all digital. So the biggest problem is always two things. One is getting a budget to do the picture, and the second one is getting distribution. Because, so many films are made out there, but they have no distribution. So the people that risk everything, in most cases, by doing film, even James Cameron, he had to put his house in and go out and get additional investors. And, he didn't even make a dime off the first film he did there that was so good. What's the name of it? It's the most incredible one. The second version hasn't even come out yet.
You talk about
we're at a loss.
Oh God, Avatar.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because they went way over budget. Way over budget.
That's the nature of it. But fortunately, I've got distribution. I've got a request for 4 new shows a year. So I've got guaranteed distribution. And I'm very fortunate. I want to thank my partner, Warren, with Reality Productions and Reality Entertainment and a whole bunch of other companies. But by the way, he just did that new documentary called Hunting Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah, I know which one. Oh, so,
Yeah.
okay.
He produced that and distributed it.
Yeah, I've seen that. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen it advertised in that.
Really good. It's worth watching for a couple of bucks. Yeah.
I'd like to get him on the show. I haven't had a really solid, good Bigfoot show in a long time, and I need one. I need to get into the subject.
Warren wouldn't do a show, but the guy that's in it, you mentioned his name. He probably would. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, hook me up, Robert, because I need a good Bigfoot show. For people listening, again, I can't share the links. We don't have a chat room for the radio show tonight, but you can call in tonight after the commercial break at 219-230-4444 or at Skype IDs 00JBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. Those are the Skype IDs you can call in. Share your experience. That's what I would love to hear somebody who's had an ET experience call in and share it. I love those stories. But ask Robert a question if you got one. We're going to go to our last commercial break of the night, and then we'll have the last half hour of the show, and we'll get into more of Robert's experience and what we can do to change our future. The future is always in motion. We can change it. I believe we can change it. We have to. I have to do my part. You have to. We have to speak our voices up. There's things going on in the world right now as we speak that are very dangerous and not good. And as a people, we have to speak up because our children depend on it. My children depend on it. We got to change things. Definitely. All right, guys. Like I said, we play music out till late night in the Midlands Radio Network. You cannot hear on Facebook. So don't freak out. We will be back after this commercial break. And you can call in. Please call in, share your experiences. I know it's late. Sometimes if I do it in the last hour, people are like, oh, it's too late for me to call in. No, call in. Call in and share your experiences. The show does go by quick, and we're in the last half hour, but we will be back with Robert's incredible story. All right, guys, talk to you in a few minutes. Tonight on Paranormal Super, last half of the show, we have, if you've just joined us now, you're a little late, but we have our guest, Robert Douglas Miles, Hollywood producer, writer, and alien contactee. We've been talking about his experience tonight, the vision of the future he had. It was a horrendous future that we should try to avoid at all costs. Can we change this future? I think we can. Now, I am interested for your stories or for you to call in and ask Robert a question. There's a number of ways you can do it. You can call in at 219-230-4444. You can call in at Skype IDs OOJBlandOO or at JBland Paranormal Soup. Those are your Skype IDs. Call in, share your experiences. This is the place to do it. We are an open forum for you to have a safe place to come and share your experience with no judgment. I believe you. I know people are having these experiences. So let's get back to the show.
Hello, Jason.
Hello, Robert.
Hello, team.
You're right.
Yeah, you got a team out there.
I do. I have a great team of people. We got Jamie D and Rob Autry. He's there somewhere in the background, and Jeffrey Chan on the video thing. But we all have to be a team. You know, people that believe are open-minded about this, we have to support each other. And that's what I love about our chat room on Facebook. And then the one we had on L&M, which is down tonight, is the support people give to each other. Yeah, there's trolls and stuff that pop in, but that's what Rob and Jamie do. They just kick them on out. You have an open, safe place to chat in there. You have an open, safe place to call in, people. 219-230-4444. Call in before the show ends and get your question into Robert. Now, the vision of the future. What are the things? What do you it seems like you have the boat project. It kind of scares me, your boat project, because it's like, okay, let's get on the ocean and get away.
That's a good sign. Ask your kids if they want to continue going to school here or if they want to go out there and be homeschooled, you know, and really learn what's going on. And hey, my kid, he was only like, he was about 5 or 6 years old when we did Fairweather, and he's 45 now. And you know, he caught the biggest rock cod of anyone on the boat, over 30 pounds, okay? And he was a great sailor. He was diving using a hookah under boats in San Diego Harbor by the time he was 6 or 7 years old.
Wow.
And, you know, our kids are so much smarter than we are. I mean, they really are. They don't have all this junk.
Yeah, so true. So true. My 6-year-old's commentary on things is just cut straight to the point on some things. I was like, well, yeah, you know, you try to explain the world to your kid, and he's like, it just doesn't make any sense to him. I'm like, well, you're pretty much right why it shouldn't make sense to you.
Hey, I'd love to have you as a member of the Safe Space team. And by the way, people out there, there's no charge. Just go on the website, click join the Safe Space team. All we ask is that you support the views. You know, you want a better world. Nothing heavy. And then we have another section, which is we call special team. And the special team now, they're doing something like the Fast Walker film. They made a lot of money and it's still selling. Those people actually, altogether, we start out with a budget of only $40,000. And we had to put our own money in. We borrowed on our credit cards to boost it a little bit. But the end result is everybody made money. They're still making money. And we're going to do a film, a documentary film, of the building of the ship and sailing down to the Bahamas and the diving and all the exciting things about it. But people got to figure out how they can work on the boat part of the time so that they get the experience, because honestly, there's a harmonic, which is called affinity. And affinity is a harmonic that runs, you know, like, let's say that the average person is real conservative. Well, I really don't think I should change anything in my life. That's about 3.0. The next harmonic is about 4, where you have kind of a little interest. and you get up a little bit higher on that harmonic scale that goes all the way up to 40. Okay, you get up to 8, you're in action, and suddenly the world is different. You got a purpose, and I don't care whether it's on my boat project or one of my projects, but anything like you right now, man. You're enthusiastic, and your hosts are enthusiastic because you're doing something. You're in action. You're at 8 at least on that scale. And at the next level, let's say about 10 or 12, you can start materializing things. You can think, boy, I want something to happen. And you know, the whole secret thing with Rhonda, she's telling people, imagine that something can happen, that it's going to be different. It's going to happen in your lives. And the law of attraction pulls that positive energy. And the next thing you know, hey, we got a new switcher. Someone donated a new switcher, or suddenly I won the lottery, or, you know, I haven't been that lucky.
No, I got to play it to win it. That's the problem. You know, it's funny you bring that up, though. We've actually had a lot of good guests on that subject in the last couple months on the ability to manifest your reality and, you know, positive thinking and that. And do you think just people, I mean, do you think people opening their minds to these concepts and changing their reality like this can have an impact on the future you saw?
Yeah, not only do I think it can, I've proved it over and over. When I wanted my first Corvette, I got a little fruit jar. I put a picture of a Corvette on it, and threw dimes and pennies and nickels and $1 every now and then when I didn't have to put it in the gas tank. Next thing I knew, I had a Corvette. Okay, and then, you know, same way with the boats. Now, like right here, this is the plan, so I'm going to move it somewhere.
Move it the other way.
Right, this way. Oh, there we go.
And turn it around.
Okay,
There you
right
go.
now I'm designing this
Wow.
about a 54 footer. Okay, this is the one we're going to build. Okay, it's going to have about 8 people, and there will be room for some guests, you know, on it. But see, Jason, it isn't enough to imagine it. You got to do something. You got to turn it into positive action. And that's scary. You know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And of course, you know, we live with this whole bunch of memories of negativity. And you got to delete that stuff out of your mind and just not let it be there, like Rhonda says. And I've got her book, The Magic, you know. I'm a big fan of hers.
The Corvette fun. I love that.
Hey, maybe some of your hosts got a question for me. Come on, you guys.
Robert, we got Rob in the panel here. He's my fellow pirate.
Hey, mate. Howdy.
How's it going?
Yeah, doing good. You got a question? Come on.
There's been a couple of questions in the chat room, but yeah, I know somebody wanted to know. I think we talked about it at the beginning of the show about the Trump with the Space Force thing. What your opinion on that was?
Yeah, my opinion is it's been going on a long time, and last thing we're going to hear about it is when they want us to.
Yep, that's my opinion as well.
Hey, I love your goatee, man.
He's, like I said, he's my pirate, man. He lives in St. Augustine, Florida, man.
On another subject, we just written a script on pirates.
I love that.
It's called Black Pearls, and it's based on the true story of Anne, Mary, and Calico Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they were the most famous women pirates of all time. And it's a kick-ass script, and we're out there trying to sell it to someone to do it. So if you know anybody that knows a producer or an actress or whatever, hook us up. We got to get that movie done.
I'm surprised there isn't more of a movie on that. It's such an incredible story. We'll get into that, but, you know, I mean, the two women pirates, and the way it ended for them being in jail and pregnant, it saved their lives for being hung at the time. You know, it's an incredible story.
Mary Read died in prison during childhood.
Yeah.
Anne Bonny was fortunate. Her father pulled her out of the blue and got her back, and she ended up having 10 children. I'll have to send you the script.
Yeah, I would love to see it. Me and my son, we love the whole Pirates of the Caribbean series, and I've just always been fascinated by pirates. I always say I'm fascinated. People are like, Jason, you're fascinated with everything. And there's a lot of things I'm fascinated by. I love history, so get over it.
This is an adult pirate.
Yeah, yeah. Not your Disney World, Disneyland.
A lot of people realize that Anne Bonny and Mary Read were lesbians as well.
Yeah, I always wondered that. Because there's no way they would have came out with that back then. Not at all. They wouldn't have understood.
Your other hosts have got to have questions. Come on, let's get them.
Or Jamie, do you have a question from the chat room?
There was another question earlier back in the chat that somebody, I can't remember who it was offhand, but somebody wanted to know after your trip, like once you got back, like how did you feel like once you got back to your,
Hey, that's a great question. And honestly, for probably 3 weeks, I felt like my feet weren't touching the ground. My energy harmonic was so high. It was, I was way above action because I started it. First thing I did is I went down and took a class at community broadcasting to learn how to do something I had agreed to do on my mission. So, and that continues. And like I said a few segments ago, like right now, my energy harmonic, maybe you guys can feel it out there. I don't know.
No, I can, because I've had 4 hours of sleep and 1 hour nap, and I'm still going. And I couldn't drink that much coffee tonight because I've had horrible heartburn. Long story. But so yeah, I definitely have the energy tonight that I shouldn't have at this time of night. I want to get to something before we run out of time, because it's something I've been wondering about all night. Maybe it has something to do with the reason they chose you. What's your thought on? Because even John Lear gets into this on past lives. Do you think that played a role into why they chose you? Were you somebody that lived another life or from another planet? Even I believe people could have lived past lives on other planets.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Fact is, I've got recall on some of that stuff. Yeah.
See, that's a subject I'd like to hear more about, Robert, because I'm fascinated by this idea. I mean, that's one of the things that fascinated me about the John Lear story. He talked about the moon being a soul capacitor. We die, we go there, and then they put us back.
Yeah.
We were reborn. It's the cycle of reincarnation. And you hear abductees talk. There are some, or more contactees, I should say, than abductees. Really, contactees, people that are having this open relationship with aliens. That they chose them, or they chose to come here and live this life to do a mission. That they had these other lives, and then they're part of something greater.
Yeah. Hey, well, I really encourage those contactees to get in touch with me. Go to Timestream Pictures, and that's a real deep website. It's kind of hokey because I built it myself. But go through that and get in touch with me, because there's people out there, I tell you, that are really incredibly powerful people that have been suppressed, not only by what they consciously know, but because of the entrapment that occurs in our day-to-day living.
See, one of the things I've theorized, and I know we're getting into speculation, but hey, whatever, is the reason why they're coming out with 5G and chemtrails and the pharmaceuticals and all the things they're poisoning us with is maybe they're trying to stop an awakening. That people are having an inner spiritual awakening. That's just something that's happening as a planet, as an evolutionary process, and the government knew it was going to happen, and is doing all they can to suppress that awakening.
You're right on.
That's
You're
interesting.
right on, because they'll only tell us what they want us to know. We've got to extend our boundaries. We have to give some substantiation to our own insight. They used to say your heart knows. Your heart knows. So ask yourself, am I happy? Am I living a purposeful life? And do I believe that things could be better? I think they can. I know they can. It's just that if we don't exercise our free will and get into motion, go from thinking about to doing about, not going to happen. We're going to be sitting here right in the midst of this incredible destruction and chaos. Uh, it's almost impossible to describe. And it's all part of a planned agenda. I recently did a DVD with Augie Nost, who's another one of your
Great host.
hosts. And Augie is a person that does. You know, he knows a lot about things, about consciousness and the mind and multidimensionality. And he has a good feeling for what's going to happen. And he thinks it's going to be good. So I just say, you know, check out Augie Nost, whether it's on Late Night in the Midlands or they go on and get the DVD. His has just been released, by the way, in UFO Chronicles under the title of Aliens and Agenda 21.
I've seen that one. I've seen on Prime.
Yeah,
I think.
And let me tell you that Augie knows a lot about that subject, and people that don't know about Agenda 21 better check it out, because that's what's planned for the.
That's the depopulation of the planet.
Exactly.
And that's what scares me. And I've known about it since I was a teenager. I started doing research into this, and it scares me. And you talk about the history of AIDS and other viruses and our government's hand in it. And researchers' hand in it. It scares me what they could do and how quickly they could wipe us out.
Well, in the Lycandroids book, that's a scenario that takes place. In other words, within that book, we have a group that is dictated to by overlords, which are off-planet people, and they go about the depopulation of the Earth. And they do it in a big way. They depopulate entire cities at one time.
And you know what? One of the things I just told this, I've been having some email correspondence with an abductee, and one of the things I had to say about an experience I had, but maybe I have had an alien experience, is afterwards I started getting really paranoid about big cities. I get really paranoid being in big cities. I get anxiety, and I never was when I was younger. I used to love it, like, oh yeah, this is awesome. But after an experience I had, it might have been alien, I don't know. I became very paranoid of big cities, and I feel like they're death traps. And that's the place you do not want to be if stuff goes down.
Yeah, and if anybody thinks that they're going to be safe and secure in a big city, you may have a food supply that's going to last you, but the government comes in and confiscates all those.
Cuts off the supply chain. That's all they have to do. Stop the trucks from coming in. There's nothing in.
Many people don't know is that like Costco and Walmart and all of those have a backdoor program that the military takes over those, and they use them as induction centers.
Yes.
And you know, there's a lot of stuff out there. Not all of it's true, but it's going to be bad news if it goes down that track. Let's change it, man. Hey, I invite you and your team to go in and click on Safe Space Project for more information on Timestream Pictures, and let's get in touch.
Definitely. Yeah, I always said about, you talk about taking the boat, building the boat and go that. I always said, and I've talked about this on the show, I've had, whenever I feel like something big's going to happen, like 9/11, I have these dreams beforehand, weeks beforehand, of zombie apocalypse and of zombies, and then something big happens. And I've had a couple of those dreams recently. I'm just telling you people, so I'm worried. And I've always said one of the best ways if there was a zombie apocalypse to survive it would be on a boat, not on the ocean though. I always said the lake because you got fresh water.
Too close.
But yeah, too close to civilization would be the issue. But I always thought, well, at least you'd have fresh water. But I always said one of the best ways to survive a zombie apocalypse would be out on a boat because zombies can't swim. They're going to just sink.
Yeah,
they did that in Fear of the Walking Dead.
Yeah, and you're right on. And I don't want people to get the idea that I'm trying to recruit everybody. It's very select people that are willing to put their lives on the line and get involved. And, it's going to have its up and downs, but somewhere out there in the world where you guys are reaching, or Late Night in the Midlands will reach, or one of the other shows. I haven't done any shows for a long time other than that one that I did with a terrific group called Broadcast Team Alpha. And great group. That's on my website, that interview. And I apologize, I don't have the website, all the shows and stuff up there yet. But with your permission, I'll put your show up. And
You have it.
access it. Yeah.
Yep. Welcome to download it or link it or do whatever you want with the show. I tell that to all my guests. We do have about a minute or two left. I want to make sure you have the floor to get out any last information, all the contact stuff for the audience, because it's important. We're talking about, his website has a lot of great information about his experiences and what you can do. So go ahead. You have the floor, Robert.
Yeah, well, the best way to reach me is through TimestreamPictures.com. And that website has got about 28 pages. And there's a set of drop-down menus. They're up in the top, they're black. And then they have drop-down menus. You can see that black bar. You click on that, a menu will drop down. The one called Safe Space has got a lot of stuff on it, including our new project. We're starting the boat project. And again, we're not building that big ship. We're just building like a 54-footer. And so I just invite people to click on Join the Safe Space Team. There's no charge. There's going to be discounts on products. Honestly, I got shelves full of books and DVDs, and going back to Prime, go up at Prime and watch Alien Agenda. That's the old Fast Walker, re-released by Hollywood Distribution.
Well, I was a fan of a lot of your movies before I knew you were the one making them. That's what I thought was so awesome when we first talked on the phone. You're like, oh, yeah, I have these movies, and you can check them out. And I'm like, I have. Oh, my God. And then I went and rewatched them, and I go, yeah, there it is. Produced Robert D. Miles. I'm like, wow,
Well,
small world.
It's
Exactly.
important to know that it wasn't just me. I mean, these are team projects. Leslie Mitz is incredible. So is my partners. Anthony T. Miles has Fourth Wall Film and Productions in Arizona. Bruce Jessup and Stoyan, they were all pitched in and did that film. The other projects that we've done, some of them have been great, some of them have been partial, but there's also risk involved. So a person's got to think about that. But just join the Safe Space team. There's nothing to it. It's free. And special team is where we start getting more. We tell people more about the pitfalls. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Robert, for being on the show. I'd love to have you on again, talk more about this. Maybe as you get further into your project, we'll hear more, get an update on it. But it was an honor to have you on the show tonight. Thank you so much.
Well, it's an honor to be on your show. And just thank you guys, because you're changing the world.
Trying to.
Now you're doing it. You're not just trying, you're doing it. And
Do or do not. There is no try. Another good Yoda reference there.
Sometimes it takes a little time. But people better kind of check their stopwatch, because time is moving pretty fast now. It seems to me there's an acceleration.
That's how I feel too. Art Bell used to call it the quickening. And the quickening is upon us now, because the show is over, guys. Thank you so much for being with us, Robert. Next week we will have, I believe it's a psychic medium. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I know it's Julie Griffin is who we're going to have on next Sunday. Same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Easterns when the show starts. It maybe might just be a 2-hour show next week. I don't know, or a 3-hour. By November, we will be full into our 3-hour show always. All guests will be 3 hours is what we're doing. We're moving to a longer show because we have such great content, such great guests like Robert, and so much to cover. The show's expanding. We're doing more to come soon, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a great night.
Thank you for listening to Paranormal Soup right here on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Be sure to catch us here each week, Sunday night, 11 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Pacific.